All right, today's day 10, right? Correct. Today is day 10. Awesome. January 10th, 10 days down. Hey. Yep, that's right. She's sleeping. Yeah, 355 more days to go. Who's excited? Let's do this. We are 78% of the way through. And did we finish the box model yesterday? We did finish the box model. Now we're on to CSS positioning. Layouts. Let's check it out. Okay. 9 sections. All right. Learning. The box model is the first step in understanding how the browser lays out HTML elements. Visually appealing websites, however, are often the result of well-positioned elements. In this unit, you'll learn how to position HTML elements in order to gain more control of the web page's layout. Let's begin. Section dos. Take a look at the block level elements in the browser to the right. Okay. Looking. Notice that the block level elements not only take up their own line of space and therefore sit on top of each other, but they also consistently appear in the same position on the web page. Specifically, they appear on the left side of the browser, which is their default position. The default position of an element can be changed by setting its position property. The position property can take one of 4 values: static, the default value, it does not need to be specified; 2, relative; 3, absolute; and 4, fixed. Side note, there's no definitions there, although it's fairly straightforward. In the next few exercises, you'll learn about the values in 2, 3, and 4 above. For now, it's important to understand that if you favor the default position of an HTML, you don't need to set its position property. Instructions. Set the position in .question to static. Notice that setting position to static does nothing. That's because static simply refers to the default. Yeah, I was going to say, do I need to actually add anything? It doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't change anything. I'll add it in, but position static. Okay. One way to modify the default position of an element is by setting its position property. One way of modifying the default position of an element is by setting its position property to relative. This value allows you to position an element relative to its default position on the web page. Div, description, background color, width, height, position, relative. Although the code in the example above instructs the browser to expect a relative positioning of the div, it does not specify exactly where the div should be positioned on the page. Div, background width, position, relative, top 50 pixels, left 75 pixels. In the example above, the div has been positioned using 2 of the 4 offset properties. Top moves elements down, bottom moves elements up, left moves elements right, right moves elements left. Good. In the example above, the div will be moved down 50 pixels and to the right 75 pixels. Units for offset properties can be specified pixels, ems, or percentages. Note that the offset properties will not work if the position of the element is not set to relative. Handy tip to know. Instruction in style.css. Set the position in question to relative. Question. Pregunta. Static to relative. And run it. Next, add 240 pixels on top of div question. Div. I think they're just talking about question. It's just confusing why they would change it from dot question to div question, but whatever. So top was no 240, right? 240? Yes. Run it. Aha. Nice. 4 of 9. Another way of modifying the position of an element is by setting its position to absolute. When an element's position is set to absolute, all other elements on the page will ignore the element and act like it's not present on the page. Position absolute. Unlike the relative value, the code in the example is valid. The div will be pinned down to its current position. Unfortunately, its offset properties aren't specified. It's possible for the div's content to overlap with other content on the page, especially since other elements will ignore the div. Offset properties can be set in order to avoid this problem. The specific offset values will depend on what makes the best sense for the content of a web page. Okay. In style.css, set the position inside of the dot header selector to absolute. Scroll up and down the web page. What do you notice? So there's that. Welcome to the survey. That's just chilling there. Everything shimmies. We're going to change the position to absolute for the header. We're noticing, not a whole lot is different. I mean, the question section it used to be up top, but now it's moving. Used to sit above, like so, but now it's trapped below here. Or scrolled all the way to the top of the webpage. Next, add a top and left offset properties and set them to 0 pixels. Okay. Do top 0 pixels, left 0 pixels. Okay, run. now they're back up top again when we're all the way scrolled up. Okay. When an element's position is set to absolute, as in the last exercise, that element can still scroll out of view when a user scrolls. We can fix an element to a specific position on the page regardless of user scrolling by setting its position to fixed. Position fixed. In the example above, the div will remain fixed to its position no matter where the user scrolls on the page. This technique is used often for navigation bars on a web page. It's still possible, however, for content like text to overlap other content when using this position. One solution is to set an opaque background color for the element. Position, background color. The opaque background will prevent any other content on the page from overlapping with any content inside the div. Change the position of header selector, fix. Header selector, position to fixed, and run it. Ta-da, she's finally locked in place, and text does overlap with it. And it does look strange. Neat. Next. When boxes on a web page have a combination of different positions, the boxes, and therefore their content, can overlap with each other, making content difficult to read or consume. Navigation, color, position, background color, position, relative. In the example above, the description div would ignore the navigation div and overlap it as a user scrolls. The opaque background color of the navigation div is not enough to prevent this from happening. The Z-index property controls how far back or how far forward an element should appear on the web page. The Z-index properly accepts integer values. Depending on their values, the integers instruct the browser on the order in which elements should be displayed on the web page. Z-index 1. In the example above, the Z-index of the navigation div has been set to 1, which instructs the browser to move this div forward and stack it on top of the other elements when the user scrolls. It's not necessary to set the Z-index of the description div to 0 or anything lower than 0. Setting the Z-index of navigation to a number greater than 1 or to a number greater than 0 is sufficient to prevent overlapping content. Set the Z indicator to 1000. Notice how the header is no longer overlapping with the welcome div. Yeah, because I was noticing question 4, 5, and 6 are like writing right there on the welcome div or section. So now we're going to dot header Z-index. Z-index, slightly German. Okay, so run it. Look at that. Clean spacing between 4 and the welcome and it's above everything. It scrolls and nothing goes over. This is awesome. This is great. Tons and tons of fun. 7 and 9. Oh god. Oh god. Highlighting Rampage. There we go. So far, you've learned how to specify the exact position of an element using offset properties. If you're simply interested in moving an element as far left or as far right as possible on the page, you can use the float property. The float property can be set to one of two values. Left, this value will move, or float elements as far left as possible. Right, this value will move elements as far right as possible. A div block float left. When an element is floated, any other content with the same containing... What's that? Yeah. Oh, look at you. Look at you. Yeah, you're sleepy. She's stretching. Come on. No? You're good? You're just gonna... No? You want none of that interaction. Okay. Still in nap mode. Fair enough. She's on the move. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Who's a good girl? Alright. Where'd we leave off? Don't step on my phone. Chat's open. We don't need you commenting with your toes. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Getting into it. No, you're standing on the keyboard. Oh god. Thank you. You lost. And there she goes. Kerflop. Oh, look at that. To the kitty heater. Let me turn it on for her. No. Nice. There we go. Okay. She's good. You see her? Yeah, look at her. Right there. So cute. Getting toasty. It's probably cold right now. It's been... Receiver's been off for a while, and... No? She's good? She's moving? Yeah. Too cold. Hasn't been on. That's alright. That's alright. Where'd we leave off? We totally got distracted with the cats. Cats and coding. When an element is floated, any other content with the same containing element will naturally flow around the element. The floated elements must have a width specified, as in the example above. Otherwise, the element will assume the full width of its containing element, and attempting to float the element may not yield any visible results. Set the float property of the div answer element to left. Div answer left. Float left. Oh. I added it to the wrong section. That's the answer. There we go. Next. The float property can also be used to float multiple elements at once. When multiple floated elements have different heights, however, this can affect their layout on the page. Specifically, elements can bump into each other and not allow other elements to properly move left or right. Setting the clear property of an element lets you specify how elements should behave when they bump into each other on the page. The clear property specifies how elements should behave when they bump into what? It's like the same sentence, or very similar. The clear property specifies how elements should behave when they bump into each other on the page. It can take one of the following values. 1, left, the left side of the element will not touch any other element within the same containing element. 2, right, the right side of the element will not touch any other element within the same containing element. 3, both, neither side of the element will touch any other element within the same containing element. And none, the element can touch either side. Div float left, div special clear left. In the example above, all divs on the page are floated to the left side. The div with class special did not move all the way to the left because a taller div blocked its positioning. By setting its clear property to left, the special div will be moved all the way to the left side of the page. Take a look at the answer.div on the web page. They have been floated to the left, but the .question divs are touching the .answer divs on the right. Let's fix this. In the questions selector, set the clear property to the left. Notice how the questions moved. Okay, so take a look at answers. Okay. They've been floated to the left, but the questions are touching the answers. In the question selector, clear the property left. Set a clear property to left. Way too many R's in there. On second thought, this layout is not looking so good. Remove the float property from .answer and clear property from question. Remove the float property from answer. And the clear property from question. Ta-da! 9 of 9. Way cool. Great job. In this lesson, you learned how to control the positioning of elements on a web page. Let's review what you've learned so far. 1. The position property allows you to specify the position of an element in 3 different ways. 2. When set to relative, an element's position is relative to its default position on the page. When set to absolute, the element's position can be pinned to any part of the web page, but the element will still move out of the view the page is scrolled. Gotta work on that. When set to fixed, an element's position can be pinned to any part of the web page. The element will remain in view no matter what. 5. The z-index of an element specifies how far back or how far forward an element appears should be on the page. So many minor issues. 6. The float property can move elements as far left or as far right as possible on a web page. 7. You can clear an element's left or right side or both using the clear property. When combined With an understanding of the box model, positioning can create visually appealing web pages. So far, we've focused on adding content in the form of text to a web page. In the next unit, you'll learn how to add and manipulate images to a web page. Take some time to experiment with your knowledge of positioning and style.css. When you're done, proceed. I actually like how it looks just like this. I think they were right in section 8 that it looks best this way. So I'm not actually going to tinker very much with that at all. So onward to the next. Adding images. Learn how to use images to make web page visually appealing. This entire course, you focused on adding content that you've authored, like headings, paragraphs, lists, and more. Much of this content is text-heavy by nature. As you've no doubt seen, most web pages are not text-heavy. They make extensive use of great-looking images to improve the user's experience on the site. We are Broadway. Get started, design, develop, and deploy. Looks tons and tons of fun. Awesome. So we're actually going to call it quits for today, at least for the coding stream. Let's see where we ended up. 85%. 120 points. We're on a roll. 10 days down. 120 points further ahead than where we were 10 days ago. So 20 badges. Making progress. Way cool. Well, I think that's it. Little Kitty has left the building, and I think I will as well. Till tomorrow, day 11. Killing the stream for now.